Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Today we're talking about Star Trek Voyager Season 2, Episode 3, Projections. Before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast.
That is correct. And as we say every single week, you should find us and follow us because we're great, we're awesome, we're a good time, and we're finally really trying to dedicate ourselves to making it through Voyager. We've had several interruptions as we've gotten ourselves up to speed and moving along here, but we're here. We're locked in. We're gonna do it. So I apologize for the various delays and missed days and all that kind of stuff, but we're gonna make it. All right. Now, of course, before we jump into projections tonight, we always like to give ourselves an opportunity to check in with one another. So, David, how has your week been?
Week's been all right. I've been rewatching Christopher Nolan's filmography in preparation for the Odyssey, as I'd mentioned, I think, last time. Odyssey has come out, but I've not yet seen it. You and I might try and see it. Well, I haven't figured anything out there yet. But I still have 2 films to rewatch. I rewatched everything except Tenet and Oppenheimer so far, so I'm doing them chronologically. And yeah, it's fun to rewatch his films and like sometimes notice new things, appreciate new things, and rewatch in my rewatches. Even though I've seen these movies multiple times already, but yeah. Tenet and Oppenheimer. Yeah, go ahead.
So I know the Odyssey has come out, and like I said, we haven't seen it yet. I've been trying to stay away from, additional previews or leaked stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I have been hearing reviews, and they're not good. So I'm shocked because the amount of buildup here, and again, it's Christopher Nolan, and the story material that he's using and everything else.
Right.
So I really anticipated a good film. However, one, I always take initial criticisms of anything with a huge grain of salt because, there's always going to be detractors and people who want to just deadpan things, whatever. Right. But in addition to that, I've also seen that a lot of the negative feedback is more about the Helen of Troy casting than really anything else about the film. So I just, it's always the kind of thing that I'm just thinking to myself, this is subject matter that's also dealing with gods and goddesses. So if you've got a problem with casting, but you have no problem with the fact that you've got characters talking with gods and goddesses, you've missed the whole point. So, but yeah, reviews are mixed, to say the least.
It has a 97% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 95% critical review. So it does seem to be doing pretty well, at least on there. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to hold out judgment until I actually see it. But at the same time, it was just I was becoming quite aware of the fact that there was a lot of initial negativity and vitriol coming out about the movie. So for anyone else who is trying to avoid anything before you see it, just be aware that it's out there and don't get sucked into a downward spiral before you go and actually watch the movie and get the opportunity to make up your mind for yourself, basically.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What's up with you?
Nothing. Working out, as you know, really enjoying that. I have lost 30 pounds during this journey here. Yeah, your face was my face. So, I've been doing this for several months, as you all know. When I was first getting this started, I was weighing myself every week because, that's the thing that they say you're supposed to do to be very diligent. And I'll tell you, the first couple of months, I felt like the scale just wasn't moving at all. And so I just was like, I did one more weigh-in. And then I just said, screw it. I'm not going to weigh myself anymore. I'm not going to focus on it so much. I'm going to focus on the workouts. I'm going to focus on feeling good, changing the things I know I need to change. And then I'll weigh myself somewhere down the road. So I kind of knew where I was. And then, we started doing this. And so since that, and it was right before you started working out with me that I did that. and stop focusing on weight so much and doing the weekly weigh-ins and everything. And
Right.
so then a couple days ago, I whipped out the scale, got on the scale, and saw the drastic difference. And let me tell you something. I was so shocked. I immediately got off my scale and went and got new batteries to put into the scale to make sure that it wasn't like a fluke reading or something, 'Cause that can happen on digital scales. If your batteries are low, it will mess up your reading. So, um, so yeah, I fresh batteries, step back on it, and no joke, no whatever. I have officially lost 30 pounds. It was like 30.1 something or another, because again, digital scale, nice readout, all that kind of stuff.
That's great.
You know how messed up you've got to be in the head about your weight and everything else that you don't believe the report when you see it. That my thought was instead of thinking, oh, your hard work is paying off, you did it, you did the thing. My thought was, no, scale's broken. You order a new scale, or at least change the batteries or so forth. So yeah, now this does not mean that I have in any way hit my target weight or look or any of that stuff. It's just really encouraging that I have I can see that there is a positive trend towards where I want to go. Still more weight that I want to lose, still more strength I want to gain. I was telling David in the gym a couple days ago, I guess by now, what was that, Thursday? Saturday. No, it was Saturday, because I said I wanted to max out and maintain, a 400 bench press and a 500 squat. So there's still work to be done.
Right.
But yeah, those are my goals. So yeah, it's just stay consistent. Don't give up on yourself. And don't focus so much on the scale. It's just going to make you sad. Get yourself a good plan. Stick to your plan.
Right.
Okay. That's about it. So spend some time today with family, driving all over, doing stuff. We're also counting down until school starts here. So we were doing all that kind of stuff, and we've got even more of that coming up in the next few weeks until we're back in the full go of me getting up at 6 a.m. to get my kid to school and rolling through work and then workouts and all that. I'm going to be very tired here real soon. So,
Gotcha.
but I'm okay. I'm excited, and hopefully I can hit all the goals that I want to hit before Halloween, because my goal was to lose enough weight that I would then be able to be a Klingon for Halloween.
Right.
So
Okay. You only got a few more months left, but
I know. So we'll see. I don't want to be the portly Klingon. I want to be the good one with the guns. 400-pound bench press is insane. That just depends. David, correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen anybody in the gym that's lifted more than me. Correct?
no,
Would you say that's fair?
yeah, we've seen plenty of people who definitely look jacked, but at the very least, if the people who look the most jacked,
Yeah.
they haven't done anything on like the bench press like we have, so I can't compare I haven't compared. I wouldn't be able to compare their numbers to yours. So, but yeah, you throw 45s on like they're frickin' pancakes.
Well,
my goal. Lift one up. I have to give it a little,
that is part
motion.
of the lifting regimen. Don't let anybody tell you different. Racking the weights and putting the stuff back and all that stuff is as much a part of your workout as actually doing the lift. So it's an intrinsic part of it. So do it. Don't be lazy. Rack your weights. Use it. Put it back. All that's a part of it. Okay.
Right.
You only get to stop and don't have to do it when you've done a super large amount of weight. So when I finally bench 405 for the first time, I will not be putting that away. Someone else will put it away for me, because no one else can do it. But that's it. But we're not here to talk about all those things. We're here to talk about Star Trek Voyager Projections Season 2. I really enjoy this episode. It's a nice, odd kind of psychological episode that we get to see here, especially for so early in a show's run. So, do you want to give the recap, or do you want me to do it?
Why don't you go ahead? You say you like it, so I'm sure you'll
Yeah.
be able to remember all the details. Yeah.
Yeah. So, fine. So, in this one, the episode starts with the doctor just appearing in sickbay. No one is there. He's wondering what's going on. He asks the computer. It informs him that he was automatically activated because of a ship-wide emergency. There's no one left on the ship. He pulls up the captain's log, finds out that there was some kind of catastrophe, and he's just been left on. He's a little morose about being left on and is about to deactivate himself when he hears some noise. Someone's trying to force their way into sickbay. He's ready to hypo them, and it turns out that it's B'Elanna. B'Elanna lets him know that they were attacked by the Kazon. The Kazon's taken the rest of the crew. The captain and B'Elanna had stayed behind to stop a potential warp core breach. The captain's been injured on the bridge, and the doctor needs to go and help her. The doctor is noticing that none of the equipment seems to be working. Nothing is registering any life signs. B'Elanna gives a quick explanation that, because of what's going on, a lot of stuff isn't working, and that's probably what the situation is. And then she tells him, I'm going to transfer you to the bridge. Now, up to this point, this has not been a possibility. We've seen them working with trying to establish holo projectors in certain areas, but this is the first time that we actually see that they've followed through with that. B'Elanna tells him, Captain was working on it in secret, didn't want to get your hopes up, but we've got them on the bridge, the first 5 decks, and a couple of other key areas. I'm going to send you to the bridge. Take care of the captain. He gets there. Bridge is a mess. He tries to help the captain with the med kit that's on the bridge. But again, none of the equipment's working. None of it's reading any life signs. So he does a quick assessment, helps her sit up. She tells him what was going on, a little bit anyway. And right as they're trying to start making any kind of repairs and adjustments, B'Elanna gets the comm system working, and they hear from Neelix. And Neelix is down in the mess hall fighting one of the rogue Kazon, who is still on the ship. They transfer the doctor to the mess hall to help out Neelix, because, again, the ship is in pieces and no one can get through Jeffrey's tubes, transporter's not working, so forth and so on. Doctor gets transferred. He gets there in time to help Neelix out a little bit, but he gets injured in the process. This freaks him out. He's a hologram. He's not supposed to get injured at all. Right. So he asks the captain to transfer him back to sickbay, gets there. Again, he's still injured, trying to figure out what's going on, and he picks up a tricorder and scans himself and realizes he has life signs. He's got a heartbeat. He's got blood pressure. He's got brainwave patterns. So what's this about? Asks the computer. The computer doesn't know anything about a holographic program or anything like that. So now he's really freaking. I am the program I'm asking about. It's kind of how that whole scene goes.
Right.
He calls the captain, asks her what's going on. She doesn't even really seem to know what's going on. So then they decide, you know what, we're just going to start over. They call up to have all holograms turned off, thinking that's going to reset the program, but instead it deactivates the captain. She was a hologram. So now the doctor is, again, thrown for a loop, and all of a sudden, Reg Barkley, hologram Reg, shows up. And Reg Barkley is saying, hey, yeah, you're not the EMH. You are Dr. Lewis Zimmerman. You were programming a simulation about, long-term hologram use, so forth and so on. You came up with all of this. There's been an accident. You're trapped in the holodeck. We're trying to get you out. There's this radiation that's going to kill you if we don't get you out in an hour. Doctor's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't believe you. He's like, but it's true. They get into a little bit of a back and forth. They slap each other. And then finally, Reg is like, look, I have got to get you out of here. This radiation, kinoplasmic radiation, is building up in your brain, and it's going to kill you in an hour. How can I convince you? The doctor's like, well, I don't know. Something's got to give here. So he's like, okay, well, there's only 2 ways out. Either the program reaches its natural conclusion or Voyager, is destroyed. So they decide to go with the second option because it's faster. We're going to cause a warp core breach, blow up the ship. You'll see, because you survived the warp core breach, that you're clearly human, and we'll get you out of here. So the doctor's like, yeah, but I got to be for sure before I do that. So they go down to engineering. They run into some other crew members who have been reactivated because Reg restarted the simulation. So they come. We see Voyager back on day one, basically. They blow up the hollow projection mainframe or whatever in engineering, but the doctor doesn't disappear. This freaks him out even more, and he's like, "Why is the ship still here? Why is everything still functioning? We just got rid of the holograms." And Reg is like, "Think about this clearly. You just destroyed the holographic controls on a holographic ship, so you wouldn't be affected here.
Right.
The only thing that can really work for you is to blow up the ship." Through all of this, the doctor is also experiencing pain. And this is, again, Reg's way of trying to convince him, this is why we know that you're real. You should not be experiencing pain. You are dying. We need to end this quickly. Doctor finally seems like he's on board with this. He's going to blow up the ship by a sustained phaser blast to the magnetic constrictors on the warp core. And just as he's about to do it, Chakotay appears. And Chakotay's like, don't do it. Don't listen to him. He's lying. That's a bad idea. And he tells him, there was an accident. The captain gave you the day off. You went to the holodeck to relax. There was an accident. You are trapped in the holodeck, but the feedback loop, if you destroy this simulation, will destroy your program. We are working on a way to fix it. Just chill out. Don't do anything.
Right.
Meanwhile, he's experiencing more and more pain, and Reg is like, yeah, don't listen to Chakotay. Do as I said. You're experiencing pain. Destroy this. Get out of here. But the doctor's like, well, wait a second. In this program, all the humans were just taken away. Why is Chakotay still here? He's like, well, the program must be not functioning. Great, clever answer, Reg, by the way. Just, it's a malfunction. Whatever. So the doctor keeps talking with Chakotay, who's just like, look, don't worry about any of this. You're more to us than just a hologram. You're our friend. We're trying to help you. Just chill. We got this. So he finally seems to want to listen to Chakotay. He lays down on his wife / Kess's lap, and they seemingly solve the problem. He's back in sick bay. Things are normal, and he's trying to get back to work. But then again, Kess starts to like grab on him and is like, "Oh, so you never loved me," or whatever. So he knows he's still in the simulated world. But then that all falls apart because now they truly have saved him, and he returns to normalcy. Confirms that he is the hologram. Kess is not his wife. It's Tuvok, the captain, some others. And they're just like, okay.
Actually, it's not Tuvok this time. It was Tuvok in the failed.
Oh, that's right.
It's actually
Tuvok in the fake one. It's Chakotay in the real one.
Right.
And that's essentially it. The episode's over.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, David, Mr. First Time Viewer, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts. So I'll say it this way. I'm not satisfied with the way this episode ended. I feel like this episode got to the point of being ridiculous. It had so many moments of and like it's like, okay, is this reality? No, this is reality. No, this is reality. And like there's no real way, in my opinion, for the doctor to confirm that yes, this is reality. I mean, he does put his arm through the doorway and it won't allow his arm to be projected outside the doorway. Kess does say like, "Oh no, we're not married." They have a little conversation, but I'll put it this way. Well, I guess I'll start with by saying this. This episode began, and I already knew something was up because it's called projections, and none of the tricorders are working. So I immediately was like, it's not the episode is not what it's presenting itself as. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
So for the first 10 minutes, I was kind of like, this is all something wrong. This is a projection. This is a false reality. So I wasn't very invested very early on because I could just tell because when they were telling the story, I've seen enough of these Star Trek episodes to know there's something a little too convenient. But by the end, especially with the whole, he shows up in sick bay, laying down on a bed, and it's Tuvok and Kim that explain things. But then Kes suddenly is all like, "Oh, you said I was beautiful," and he's like, "Oh, well, I only meant it as like a coworker." And she's like, "Oh, does that mean our marriage is over?" And it's like, "Oh no, we're back to square one." How many, like, the wool is still over his eyes. There's still another veil to pull back on, another curtain to pull back, another, the Wizard of Oz is still behind yet another curtain. And so when the final one showed up, at that point, I felt it had gotten a bit too ridiculous. I think it went one too many levels deep, to put it in like a Inception kind of way. So I guess how I just rewatched Inception.
Yeah, that was a point that was made here in our little chat. David's not buying the world within worlds within worlds.
Exactly. I mean, it really does. Again, I love Inception. It's my favorite film of all time. So this episode to me felt like it was missing that final. Like, let me put it this way: the reason Inception is so much fun is in part because the last scene is when the top is spinning. And it cuts to black before it falls over. So, the idea is like, is he still in the dream or not? So if the episode had ended with a kind of a wink and a nod of like, oh, maybe not. Maybe he's still in there. Now, that would have been unacceptable for the show. I mean, let's be clear. There was no way this episode would have ever ended without him being, back in reality. It's not going to reset the whole show with some new reality. Oh, it turns out these projections are actually real. Or of course, it was going to return back to the status quo. But it just felt like if I were the Doctor, I would be questioning my reality all over the place. Like, how many times can you find that you're not, things aren't real, things aren't the way you expect them. And so you keep questioning the nature of reality, which is, of course, the whole point of the movie Inception, is like you could get lost in there. And so I was a little bit, by the end, it was just too many levels deep. Now, and I will say this, the episode definitely felt very dreamlike. I have definitely had dreams where I don't remember my dreams like beat for beat, but I know that one thing that happens in dreams, especially for me, is like the story is never allowed to stop. The story goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. Like the story is never allowed to take a break. If the plot seems to be resolving in my little dream state, something else has to happen to keep the action going. And so that's how it feels. So if the episode had done something to say that this is basically the Doctor has entered some form of dream state, which again is very much Inception inspired, I get it. But
no, it wouldn't have been Inception inspired. This came.
Well, I mean, my critique is
yes.
Inception inspired. So for me, it's just it. Again, I was not invested very well at the beginning because I felt like there was something off, and then by the end, there had been too many layers for me to feel like it was. They pulled the trick one too many times. Is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
At.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, originally viewing this episode, it was seen as rather clever because this is a way of kind of laying the groundwork for the Doctor being more than just a holodeck program. He is suffering from, like a weird kind of self-realization and self-doubt. What am I? Am I machine? Am I human? Am I somewhere in between? All this other kind of stuff. And this plays out, mixes in with people who he knows and we, kind of don't know. Like, this is the first time that we've seen Barclay on Voyager, and, they lay the groundwork there saying he was somebody who had tested out the Doctor's interpersonal subroutines.
Which I was like, built. What?
Which, yeah, that's a bit of a stretch for me, considering if you remember anything about the character of Reginald Barclay, you know how much trouble he had with holograms. So to put him in charge of the interpersonal development subroutine is
Exactly.
crazy work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so I thought that was a bit of a strange stretch for them to throw our way to give us a reason for why Reg is there. But this is also something that Trek does a lot too. Is they like to bring certain actors back and utilize them again. Now, it may be also fun to note that the actor Dwight Schultz, who plays Reg Barkley, had actually been initially considered to play the Doctor on Voyager. Unfortunately, obviously, because of his previous association and the character portrayal in Next Generation, they didn't think that it would work to do. So they went a different direction, which I kind of get why they would do either one, right? Because Reg does have the programming history with the holograms. So I could see him basing a more, I guess, perfect professional version of himself in holographic form.
Right.
And so we would see like the cool Reg, because we know what the real Reg is like, as all, that kind of difference. But the face, the name, the overall acting style, all of it was probably a little too much. And so it just made more sense to go with a new actor.
Yeah. Barkley every episode would be a lot.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be a bit much. Even if he was, smooth moves Barkley, I think that it would be a bit too jarring considering what we know of the real Barkley.
Yeah.
And then at some point there would, of course, be the inevitable episode where they would have to cross over and meet each other and work together and all that other kind of stuff. And you know what? I like Barkley, don't get me wrong, but I don't like him that much.
Exactly.
Don't want to see him do that. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm glad they didn't do that. One thing I did like a lot about this episode was when the Doctor starts to realize that that this may be a holographic program, and he deletes Paris. And he's kind of lets a little bit of his animosity towards Tom out. And he's like, God, I can't believe I programmed such a annoying character. And Barkley's like, actually,
that's my fault.
Programmed him.
Yeah.
Based him off my cousin. And it was like, yeah, wow, y'all just shit all over Barkley for some reason. Paris for some reason. It was just cracking me up when they did that. And then, of course, it didn't work when he tried to delete Janeway. But yeah. Just little things like that I really enjoyed. And again, the greater psychological aspect of this one of the Doctor struggling with the nature of his existence. Mild spoiler for you, David, this is not the first time, or well, I say this is not the last time we will see this kind of thing play out in Voyager. So just look out for that. And it's a great thing to note as we go through the rest of the show so that you can just kind of like watch his progression and watch how these things come up and see when he becomes fully realized, if he does at all, how that works out for him, the crew, and greater holograms at large.
Okay.
My only other critique of this episode was I didn't like the fact that no one else was really involved. Like, I get that it's supposed to be stripped down episode, but
every other character, a part of the main cast, basically has a cameo role in this episode.
Yeah.
They have a cameo appearance. They appear for a short scene, and then, we need to send you over here, and that character is never seen again. Only Janeway has, 2 different scenes. She's on the bridge earlier on, and then later on, during the revisit of the pilot, where he's trying to explain to her what's happening, and she's like, how do you know what's going on? And he says, turn yourself off. And she's like, who? Yeah, it was basically all the other characters get little cameo bits, which was kind of fun in that kind of sense. But yeah, it also means that they only are there for bloop, they're here, they're gone. They're here, they're gone. This is all about the Doctor. This is a
stripped down Doctor episode. Exactly. It allows Robert Picardo to really, stretch his wings a bit with his acting, which he does a great job. But I always think about the actors and behind the scenes. And can you imagine having to sit through the costuming, the makeup, and everything else? And they're like, okay, you're going to be in this scene. It's 2 minutes long.
Right.
And then you're done. Wait a minute. This took 4 hours to do. What do you mean I'm in a 2-minute scene? you better rework this.
Right.
You know. And it does seem like the people who had the most makeup, except for Janeway, did get a bit more scene time. Like B'Elanna struggling to come through the sickbay doors, and she's injured, and she's giving the doctor the rundown of what's going on. She's transferring his program. She's talking to them on the bridge. So B'Elanna had a lot to do. Then Neelix with his fight scene in the mess hall. He's throwing stuff at the Kazon. He finally gets the upper hand on him. They have that whole little, breakout thing. Everybody else, nah. Tuvok is there for just a couple minutes to say, yeah, you're good. I'm out, and then Chakotay gives us our resolution. And then really we only see Tom and Harry in that beginning, reboot scene.
Well, Harry shows up also as part of with Tuvok, and then at the end with Chakotay. But yeah, he doesn't have any lines there at that point. Yeah, he has more like moments on screen, individual scenes he's in, but even less lines than anyone else. So
yeah. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward episode. No B plots or anything like that. Just straight up Doctor character development.
Yep.
Now, this whole thing of them playing around in the holodeck and who's real and who's not is not the first time that Trek has done this. Of course, the infamous Moriarty episodes from Next Generation deal with this. Also, a Barclay episode. Moriarty gets control of the Enterprise, wants to be allowed to leave the Enterprise in the holodeck. And they trick him and the Countess into a self-contained, capable of being mounted on your desk, personal holodeck with expansive memory to allow them to live out their days in this program.
Right.
So, yeah, they love kind of giving us these whole plays on reality, especially involving the holodeck. But honestly, for all the problems that we've seen the holodecks cause on these ships, the flagship, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, when they all got trapped in the holosuite, you would think that someone would say, you know what, maybe we should pull the plug on this technology. Too many people are almost dying, having memories wiped, all kinds of stuff.
That's a perfect example of how some of the reasons, like this episode, don't get me wrong, I think this episode was inevitable in the sense of like the growth and the how the Doctor becomes more realized, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Let's send him to the holosuite and see what happens. But there are certain moments in the episode where, like, if you think about it, it almost doesn't quite make sense. Like when he goes from the sick bay to the bridge, and from bridge to the mess hall, it looks like he's the one who's zapping in and out of existence. But if the episode wanted to hint at the reality of what's going on, it should have been that like he seems to stay still, but the room around him changes. I would have done that to be more on the nose with there's something not quite right in the early parts. But don't say too much about it at first. The idea that, like he says, turn off, like Janeway says, turn off all the projectors, which turns herself off. Like, now, of course, the whole point is that, like, basically he's hallucinating as the Graham Doctor in the holosuite. So, okay, fine. I guess what I'm getting at is my problem is like all of the everything that happens at a convenience. All of the explanations for why things are going on is convenience. Now, again, if it's like a dream state, like I remember my dreams well enough to know that they're nonsense when I think about them in the real world, but in the moment they make sense. So if that's what this is, kind of like he's having a hallucination, then it all makes sense in a certain way. But the whole explanation about, we hit an anomaly and that caused this blah, 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 blah. Like, to me, that's annoying. It's like, it's an outside interference that caused this. Like, why can't it just be that this was the first time this ever happened? And, this meant that we had unexpected, results. This is the first time we ever had a being well, maybe not the first time, but the first time we've had a holographic doctor like this interact, like if you're an unreal person interacting with an unreal space, what happens? That's basically what was going on. It's not like Moriarty. Moriarty is an unreal person, but he is still from the unreal space. What happens when you take an unreal person who's not from the unreal space, put him in an unreal space, and combine the two technologies? What happens? So I wish they had just kept it simple. Hey, you've been in here for not for, like the whole 6 hours thing. You've been in here for 6 hours, and we've been trying to save you for 6 hours. Or if you blow up the Voyager, you're gonna destroy yourself. All of that.
So
I don't know. I wish this episode had taken an extra moment to kind of like, I don't know.
So all these things you're talking about were the very common, heavily used tropes of the day.
Sure.
And that's why they seem so obvious to you, because we have moved away from a lot of that now. And now it's like those are so foundational that we've just gotten used to them twisting and twisting and twisting them to make them something completely different. So the world within worlds within worlds, oh, you're not really this, or the only way to solve it is to jump off the bridge, right? To wake up from the dream, you got to do something impossible that you would never be able to do in real life, and all that kind of stuff. All of those things were just very common in TV in the 80s and 90s, and the dreamscapes, dream sequences that reset everything. No one was ever really in any danger because you were, again, it was a dream. The dream one is a very, very prevalent one throughout the 80s and 90s. And I think this is just kind of Star Trek's entrance into that same kind of trope. We don't want to say it's a dream within a dream, so let's use our hologram, and it's all elaborate programming that has, run amok and multiple redundancies causing feedback loops that make this a problem. So you got to be able to kind of follow the story and follow the science a little bit to give you an end here, So yeah, it's all that same kind of stuff. But again, it's Trek, so they're trying their best to kind of cloak and dagger it a little bit, and really, really hoping that the story and the actors' ability cover up any shortcomings they have in the rest of it. So, now, just a nod there to the whole Kes subplot, because Kes didn't really have much to do until it's like, oh, you're actually really Lewis's wife. And that whole thing, I don't want to keep bashing Berman for these kind of things, but that's also one of those Berman-esque things, finding a way to get the cute girl to be in love with our titular character at some point, So it's the pairings. We got to have the pairings, as many of them as possible. And it had just been a little too long of us seeing cute old Kes with that walking Burball Neelix. So what would she look like with, a real man, not that cat she's been carrying around? So here she is getting to be in love with the doctor and hugging the doctor and kissing the doctor. And we already know that there's, others who are also interested in her. So we're going to see more of this kind of lead up with her as well, because they just can't leave it alone. They can't have attractive women who aren't lusted after, pursued by some guy somewhere. So don't know why he did that, but that was, a hallmark of the Berman era of Trek.
Okay. Well, I guess I would just say that, Kes is attractive. The actress who plays her is attractive.
Yeah, but we already know that she's in a relationship with Neelix. So the constant ploy and play with that situation, I just kind of find annoying, She's with Neelix. She seems to be very much devoted to Neelix. So why do we suddenly need to see her in these kind of like what if scenarios where she's with anyone other than Neelix?
Right. Yeah. I guess that was like they needed to have her character have a cameo appearance as well. And again, I guess I would put it more, in my opinion, it's more a problem of the fact that they went too deep with the reveals. Like, because again, the initial program is that the ship has been attacked and the ship has been evacuated. Then it turns out, according to what's going on, according to Barclay, he is actually a real person stuck in a simulation, and they can't get him out, and he has to blow up the ship. Then, according to Chakotay, he actually is the doctor, but he's on the holodeck and he is malfunctioning. But then again, they basically redo the Chakotay one when Kes suddenly starts going on about, we're married, and then he just I don't even remember like how he suddenly ends up in front of Janeway, looking around at the holosuite. We can recognize it's the holosuite because it has all the lattices across the walls. So yeah, if they did it one too many times for me, so that's where the Kes problem comes in, because that's the moment where he reveals he's still stuck in here.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he has little conversations with Kes and she's all giggly about, oh, you thought we were married, like, yeah. So I can see your point. I would just say that, like, the actress is attractive, and if you were having some sort of weird hallucination about your coworkers, maybe that would pop up. But it's the fact that they just that's the thing. That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's the thing that they do a lot. Like, even in our chat is pointing out here, this happened on Next Gen in the Parallels episode with Worf, and in all those different universes, realities that were popping into existence. In this one, he and Troy are just friends. In this one, they're dating. In this one, they're married. In this one, he's dead, but they were married or whatever. So it's just like we have all these what if scenarios that put these two together when we hadn't seen them in that way before. And so, it's just, it becomes so commonplace, and this need to pair up people, it just becomes, it stands out all on its own. Now, to another comment made here, as much as I criticize Berman, maybe we should put less dirt on his name now that we've seen the Kurtzman trek. Berman did oversee the golden era that we're still talking about today. Yes, he did. And I'm not trying to knock all the work that Berman did, but I'm just saying there are things that were repeated that we could have done away with, that we just really didn't need. And as we find with a lot of things, we then get into these eras where they feel a need to overcorrect. And so now you get these bizarre characters that are outgrowths of this, because we're so intent on never going back there again that we can't even touch on it for like nostalgia's sake. It's not even cool anymore because you've made your character so aggressively anti whatever that is. It's not even fun to, pardon the use, flirt with, and I mean, we can definitely look back on what Berman did and offer up the critique in the hopes that we learn from it appropriately. We did the same thing with Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry had a fantastic idea when he came up with Star Trek and the philosophy behind it and everything else. But let's not forget that he also wanted characters that had, like, female characters that had, were triple-breasted. And his original Ferengi pitch, they had, dual-wielding penises and just all kinds of random things like that.
Well, and the women are always naked at all times, except for when they're on.
And even then, even for the 60s, the powers that be were like, look, dude, that's a bit much. Like, slow down.
Right.
Like you had us until you said, 6 nipples. Now we don't know what to do with this anymore. So, like, for every great idea, there is someone who's they can also present a dud, a bad one. Hopefully they learn and move on from it. But what we see in some of these instances with Berman, he didn't learn from it. He doubled down and forced it through. And because he was in control of the golden era and Star Trek was raking in so much money under his guidance, they greenlit things that now, 20, 30 years later, we're finding out were problematic, not just for the viewing audience, but also for the actors who had to do those scenes, you know? So
Right.
that's the kind of thing that I'm always like, it's important we see those distinctions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So overall, though, how would you rate this episode? Do you think this is one that overall worth a watch? Would you return to it?
Well, I do see that on Wikipedia here. It says that this is an episode that is pretty highly praised by certain people. Like one of 62 must-watch episodes and one of the most underrated episodes of the Star Trek franchise. I guess there's so many episodes where I feel like I wish this episode had been given another once-over. They had given it another polish. And I feel like this is one that basically is what I would ask. Is I wish it had been given one more look over, one more polish, one more week. You know, I imagine they only worked on basically a week's long time frame to get like the plot down before they start moving forward with production. So this episode had potential, but again, part of the reason I bring up Inception and I say all that is to say, yeah, as you pointed out, like Inception came out in 2010. This episode came out in 1995. So like 15 years happened in between. So I'm taking a movie and then trying to retroactively apply it. So I totally get that I'm doing that. So I don't. It's like, what do I want? I wanted to. I just wanted the feel of the mystery. I guess I'll put it this way. I said it earlier. The fact that they make it into, oh, we hit some anomaly and this made all this funny stuff happen is an example I feel of a cop-out in the sense of like, I want the character of the Doctor to go through, and I want all characters to do this, I want them to go through hard, life-changing moments where they realize something about themselves on a personal level and like what they believe about themselves, about the world, and they make changes. Like I don't feel that the Doctor really changed. Excuse me, as a person in this episode.
So I'm going to say to that, we should put a pin in that. Because we have to remember that the Doctor is fundamentally different from everyone else. He doesn't start with a baseline of understanding who he is. He wasn't a person who was born and grew up and had an adolescence and all this stuff. So he had a sense of self before taking on a profession. His literal existence is wrapped around his profession. So for him to have the kind of growth that you're asking for, he needs to first gain a sense of self. And I believe that this episode is the first, is laying that groundwork. He's questioning not just his existence, but where he falls in all this stuff. Am I man? Am I a computer program? Am I just a doctor? Am I, you're asking me to, like Barclay is asking him to take these fantastic leaps, but he's also confronted by the confines of his programming. And that's why he keeps flipping out every time that, the medical stuff doesn't work for him. Because I always looked at it as like kind of an allegory. He keeps trying to use what he knows and use his world, again, medical technology, equipment, and so forth, to make things make sense. And they fail him every time. So he has to make another leap. He has to figure out another way to solve his problem, which is moving him further and further away from being just a doctor.
Right. I guess I will say this in response to myself. At the end of the episode, when he and Kes are talking, he does say, I know who I am. Like Kes is saying, like part of knowing who you is learning about yourself. Like, and he says, I do know who I am. I am the hollow sweet doctor. I am
the emergency medical. Right. But she questions that at the end too. She says, are you sure?
Yeah.
So it's like she's even aware that even though he says that, clearly what he's going through is telling him, if you want to assign him a subconscious, that subconsciously, there may be more to him.
Yeah. Like basically he doesn't do much himself, in my opinion, to question what happened here. Like, why did all these strange things happen? why did I, for example, pull up Barkley? Like, if Barkley truly was someone who helped create him, how did he have memories of a person if he's just a program?
Mm-hmm.
If Kess is someone that he is attracted to on some level, like maybe he's not attracted to Kess in a sexual way, but he expects that he maybe should, because like he only interacts with one woman, therefore the only woman he knows, like, I mean, there's other women obviously, but the only woman he regularly interacts with is Kess, and therefore there's only one woman he is close enough to be real. Why does he experience pain? What does it mean to experience pain? Like, those are
Mm-hmm.
questions I find more interesting, honestly. Like, what did it mean that he felt pain for a time? I'll say this. I've said it before. There is an episode of the show Dark Mirror that I cannot finish because the nature of pain is explored in that episode. To give a quick synopsis, this doctor in the episode is given a technology like in his neck that he can like kind of mind meld with someone's brain to figure out kind of what's going on with their body. Like, instead of having to look at someone and try and figure out what the pain is, he can like get in contact with this other person and like figure out where their pain is. So like if they have, abdominal or heart or something, but because it allows them to experience pain, it also causes them to experience the rush of like the adrenaline and the similar like reactions the body would have in relation to all of that. And he experiences death. Someone dies while he's doing this, and he gets addicted to this process. And the doctor starts wanting to experience pain so that he can experience the pleasure on the other side. Now, Star Trek is not dark like that, so I get it. But there is a question of, like, what did it mean to him that he felt pain? Like, is it just a physiological response? If he can experience pain, can he experience pleasure? I mean, he says, I feel hungry. What does that mean? And again, maybe, as you're saying, maybe the character will be developed more to the point where all of those questions will actually start to come up more often, or again, I should say, and maybe we get some clear answers. But I would rather have those questions explored and answered than a pull the curtain back multiple times on a, we have to basically, I'll put it this way. It felt like in the end, they have to fill in 40 minutes of runtime. And so they needed another 5 minutes of runtime. And so they pull back the curtain once again.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what it felt like.
I can agree with you on that. Especially that very last one before it all comes crashing down. It's like, was it really necessary? No, we just want to, throw you for one real quick loop, and then it's over, and then it's done.
Right.
It was almost, it was over really before it began, but it was just enough to be like, gotcha. You thought it was done. Now it's done. But yeah, to your point, I see that. It's just we also have to remember, again, this was the 90s, and
Yeah.
Syndication being what it was, and trying to get a whole story done in 42 minutes plus commercials is exceedingly difficult. And I just don't think that they were. I really feel like this can explain so many problems with episodes like this and episodes we're going to see in the future. I don't think anyone ever thought 20 years from now, people are going to have the ability to watch and rewatch this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that they thought that way. I don't think that that streaming and DVDs and all this stuff, intense scrutiny of it, the ability to be able to instantly talk to other people who've watched it and can explain plot holes and whatever. I don't think that anybody really saw a lot of that coming.
Yeah.
So the need to put together tight storylines wasn't there.
Right.
And I think that's why, like, there are so many episodes that we'll be like, man, like you said, I wish they'd gone over this one more time, give us a little bit more of a polish, plugged that plot or whatever, versus some that just really stand the test of time, that are truly like standalone episodes that show clear forethought and development and execution,
Right.
because just like, oh, well, this is a filler. We have an overarching story to tell. The episode that's really going to be the most important, or the couple of episodes that are really going to be the most important, is like in this block. So we need stories that will get us from this block to this block. What do you got for in here?
Right.
So yeah, I think that's how a lot of this stuff just ends up playing out, and it kind of sucks sometimes. Sometimes you get some gems, but in this case, I think you get a little bit of a mixed bag. Like I said, I enjoy this episode, but at the same time, I can see where others would be like, yeah, it's cool, but I'll skip it.
Right.
And yeah, he said in the chat here, by this time, maybe they should have. Trekkies have been overanalyzing Trek for almost 30 years at this point. True, if they had started again back with, Kirk and Spock and all those guys. But even those were treated as almost like its own thing. And like we keep saying, the golden era, starting with Berman in the 80s and then moving all the way through, that's almost treated like its own separate bit. TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. That is the golden era of Trek. That was Berman's umbrella as well. So these stand out for that particular reason. And I just don't think that, even Michael Okuda has said that when they were doing Next Generation, they never gave a thought really to re-airing episodes or doing digital masters or saving any of that stuff. And when they took Next Gen and did the digital remastering of it, it was so expensive because a lot of it had to be recreated because they had destroyed the old tapes and stuff, because no one thought anyone was going to have any interest in coming back and watching the stuff again or using it again.
Right.
So, and that's why they say that they'll never be able to digitally restore and remaster Deep Space Nine, because it's the same thing. No one saved anything. And Deep Space Nine was filmed differently than the other shows, and they didn't start filming it better until like the 6th season.
Right.
So they'll remaster Voyager long before they touch or attempt to touch Deep Space Nine. And the crazy part about that is the longer they wait, the worse time they'll have trying to do it. So,
yeah.
Well, all right. I think that really kind of sums it up for this episode. Pretty simple here with what we had going on with the Doctor. Like I said, no B plots.
Yeah.
Just all pretty tight here. I like, again, the foundational work they did for the development of the Doctor's character. Again, We're going to see some more of those things, but yeah, pretty good episode, pretty straightforward episode for that.
Right. Yeah. Again, I wanted more from this episode.
I understand.
So, yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for us on this one. We'll have a nice,
the shortest episode
tight,
we've ever
short
done.
one. Yeah. Well, before we totally close it out, I just want to say we do have some new Trek news. Star Trek: Strange New World Season 4 will finally air this coming week. It'll be July 23rd, I believe. The first episode will drop. So stay tuned for that. Does David like the Doctor? As in the EMH? Yeah, do you like the EMH as a character overall so far that you've seen?
It's an interesting concept. Who's the actor who plays him?
Robert Picardo.
When he plays the character as a very irritable, sort of irascible kind of character. Again, this is Voyager is doing something different than TNG, and TNG, of course, is the show that has the most in common with Voyager because it's about a ship. TNG was about a group of characters who are at the top of their game. They are the professionals of professionals. They are the cream of the crop. They're the reason they're on the flagship ship. These characters, the Doctor included on Voyager, are not the cream of the crop. They are very much not. They're either like Kim, ensign just out of the academy. They're marquee characters. This is a ragtag group of characters having to get along to get along. It's interesting that the Doctor is so irascible, but that is why we have that episode on Deep Space Nine where they, go to Bashir and say, "Hey, we need to find someone who's a little more, good bedside manner doctor than the engineer who created this program." And I like that they actually tie that together here. I mean, the idea that the engineer who created the Doctor, Louis Zimmerman. The idea that Louis Zimmerman is just some engineer who created the Doctor and based the Doctor's physical presence on himself. I mean, does that mean he's an egotistical dude? On some level, I'm sure the answer is yes. On another level, it's like, well, who else does he have around to get images of on the fly? So why not himself? I mean, Data, for crying out loud, is based on Dr. Soong, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's
there's gonna be a lot of that going on. Hey, we're gonna create artificial life. What should we use? The creator. I'm perfect for it. No one is like, I'm gonna create artificial life and make it look like this person.
Yeah, is he better than Bashir in the early seasons? Bashir, it's a good question. Question. Bashir in the early seasons comes off as naive and
a little childish.
Childish and full of himself, and he matures into a self-sure character. I mean, the whole idea that he actually is a super genius in hiding, kind of. I mean, like the first couple seasons don't quite make sense if you think that that's what's going on. I don't know. It throws his whole character for a loop to introduce that plot line, which ironically again happened in the episode where the Doctor Zimmerman. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, is one better than the other? I don't think I would say that. I don't think
I would say it's a little early. I mean, we're only in season 2. We'll revisit. When we get to like season 4 and 5, we can start doing a little bit more comparisons of characters because it's still very early. Lots of changes are heading our way. So we'll again stick a pin in that too. Come back, see how we feel once we've got a little bit more development of the Doctor and several other characters, to then really start comparing them to, Sisko, Kira, Odo, Data, Worf, so forth and so on. So right. We'll stop there.
Actually, and I also want to say this. What, again, I want from characters is an ethical dilemma. So Bashir has different ethical dilemmas than the Doctor here, the holographic Doctor. Going back to the episode itself, I think if I were to make a change, for example, the idea that Barclay presents that he has to blow up the ship or he has to endure the full 7-year or however long the mission is. I know the idea also was that the longer he's in there, the more his brain would break down. But I would have liked instead of the Chakotay showing up and being like, no, you can't do it. I would have liked him to be like, no, I'm not going to blow up the ship. I'm going to stick with the long-term program just to make sure that I don't do anything untoward. And then like have some sort of like jump ahead where we see the characters like in older makeup or something. That would have been a fun way of doing something of like his character, like the Doctor is suddenly jumping around. I mean, I guess I'm too Nolan inspired because Nolan loves timey-wimey nonsense.
Yeah,
I love good timey-wimey nonsense stories.
Even though I don't feel like this episode was set up well enough for that to have worked
Fair
out.
Enough. But, well, I guess what I'm getting at is that he does a good job of like resisting Barclay. Barclay's like, you gotta destroy the ship, and he's like, I'm not gonna destroy the ship. I need like some like
concrete
assurances that that's the right plan. By the way, I love, now that I'm thinking about it, like, he blows up the holo projector, as you pointed out. But earlier on, when he's with Janeway on the bridge, Janeway's like, do you know how to do this certain type of mechanical function? And he's like, is it anything like, she's like some sort of mechanical bypass. And he's like, is it like a heart bypass? And she's like, it's very similar. Like, that's a clear indication that he's hallucinating, because why would he know or think that? Like, I love at least in my head canon, the reason she said that, yes, it's just like a heart bypass is because what the hell does he know? And so, of course. So
He just heard the word bypass and made an association.
And that's that's how it would happen in a dream. Like in a dream, your brain would go bypass. Okay, I know what a heart bypass is. And yes, of course, those are the same thing. And you like, I wish that they actually had started trying to do it. And like, it suddenly got really weird. Like there was suddenly organic parts. Like we already have the organic gel. Like they could have worked actually. They could have been. No, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other things that I would have done for the episode. So I'm just kind of hallucinating myself, I guess.
You're dreaming, David. You're dreaming about us doing this episode tonight, and you're talking about stuff. So.
Oh, goodness gracious. By the way, I just want everyone to know that Perry and I we love to talk about how, like, what we would do if we were to do Star Trek shows. Like, we've already talked enough about it on screen, but off screen, we got some fun ideas that it'd be great if we could make them happen. I'm just want to shout it out.
Part of me wants us to do like this show where we just talk about our own little what ifs. But part of me is like, hey, keep that secret, because if it gets out and someone writes it and I don't get any royalties off of it, I'm going to be very upset. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe once I copyright a couple of things, then I'll talk about it. But no, I got to protect the intellectual property first before we start blabbing.
Right.
But all right, guys, I think that is going to do it for us on this one. Again, tune in on July 23rd. The first episode of season 4 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's supposed to be a pretty badass opener to a season. So I'm actually looking forward to it myself. We'll see if it lives up to the hype. Other than that, we will see you back here next week. So until then, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.